Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Let's talk about winning your claim. How can you win your claim and get it done right the first time? There are two things that you must focus on while you're putting your claim together, while you're developing your claim. Remember, this is not simply a doctor's visit and hey, boom, you're diagnosed, good to go. You have a legal responsibility to provide evidence in order for the VA to rule in your favor. The way I like to frame this and look at this is the VA essentially is like a bunch of paralegals that are handling the claim first. If they can't get it done right for you, you then have the ability to push it to the Board of Veterans Appeals, which is then overseen by a judge, an actual judge. Then, in the event that the Board of Veterans Appeals doesn't agree with you, you can then again supply more evidence and push it to the U.S. Court of Appeals on Veterans Claims. Again, another judge. So keep that in mind that this is really a legal process and you must understand the legalese aspect that is required to rule in your favor. Now, it's really kind of simple when you think about it, and I'm going to break it down for you, kind of guide you along the path and give you some resources in which you can win your claim. Again, there's two key points. One, getting service connected. Two, getting the appropriate rating out the gate. There's nothing worse than getting service connected, but at a 0% or a 10% when you probably should have been a 30 or a 50 or who knows what. So it's important to think about that along the way. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. Every thumbs up, every minute watched really does help the channel. Together, many hands make light work, and that's what we are doing here collectively. As a group, we're spreading information so people understand how to navigate the claims process. So, if you want to support the channel in other ways, I appreciate it. You can do that by becoming a member. You can go to the homepage. You'll see the highlighted members and a join button there. Thank you to all you members. I really do appreciate your support, and I try to get back to you in the comments. All right, so the two things, service connection as well as the appropriate rating, very important. The first thing that you should absolutely do is file an intent to file. That's the number one. First thing, file an intent to file. That preserves today's date and the rating schedules that are associated and in place today. If they change the rating schedules, for example, in August, and it's for the worst, well, you're good to go because you put in your intent to file. As long as you file your claim within 12 months of that intent to file date, you will be able to utilize the rating schedules that are in today's world. So, and it also preserves the date for any back pay, which is obviously the important piece as well. And it takes the pressure off while you're developing your claim. If you do not have your medical records from your time in service, I highly suggest ordering those. It's very easy to do. You can order those medical records, right? Your service treatment records, as well as your DD-214, all of that stuff with a simple form. It's SF, so Sierra Foxtrot, SF180. The SF180 will allow you to go ahead and order your records. And a side note, let's say you have a family member, grandfather, grandmother, whatever, great-grandfather, whatever, who is no longer with us. Or maybe you want to help them if they're still around. You can also use that for them. Now, if they're not passed away, you know they would have to sign it. But if they have passed away and you want to get those records as a keepsake and to pass it down, you can also order their records as next of kin. So just a little side note. All right. So now you have your intent to file in place. You have your SF180 out there. You're ordering your records and you're waiting for those to show back up. Now, what do you need for a successful claim with the VA? Okay. And again, in my mind, successful is going to be two things: service connection as well as evidence for the appropriate rating. So the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to prove to the VA that you're a veteran in good standing, right? You have not a dishonorable discharge and that you actually served. How do you prove that? With evidence. What's your evidence? Yep, DD-214. That one's pretty easy. So now you have your DD-214. Boom, shows that you're honorably discharged, and that piece is covered. Good. Most people don't have a problem with that. We've run into more problems as we go down this road. The next piece of evidence that we need is we need to actually prove to the VA that we have a condition. I get it. The VA has a bunch of medical facilities. Shouldn't they just help us with that? Shouldn't we just have to say, I've been suffering from migraines? Shouldn't I just have to show up and they'll just go, oh yeah, and annotate it and then we can move on? You would think, but they don't. You need to do that yourself. Go get diagnosed if you have not been diagnosed. If you have been diagnosed, then dig that information up. Okay, so you must have a diagnosis for the condition in which you are filing. There's some weird exceptions, but this is the best way, right? Provide them the information they need. Diagnosis. So the diagnosis should be chronic in nature or have some sort of residual effects, right? It needs to be an ongoing condition. You can't just, you're diagnosed with a flu. The flu went away. Or you're diagnosed with a cold. The cold went away. You're diagnosed with measles. It went away, right? It has to be something that's ongoing. Okay, so chronic in nature or residual effects for the diagnosis. You must have the diagnosis. Okay, that's the second thing. The third thing, well, let's just cover real quick. The first was DD-214. Second is diagnosis. The third thing is the nexus. You hear nexus all the time being thrown around. Nexus is simply proving the link between the condition and your time in service. Prove to the VA that your condition that's diagnosed is either a result of your time in service or manifested during your time in service. Now, that's what nexus means. Now, there's different ways to prove that, okay? If, for example, and we'll just use migraines because I love to use migraines. So let's say migraines is the condition. Well, let's say you got diagnosed for migraines while you were in service and you have that documentation that shows that, service member Joe Snuffy has migraines. Diagnosed, and here you go. That in itself is the nexus, satisfies the nexus because of the date of the diagnosis is inside of your time frame of service. Okay, that is the nexus. Now, let's say that you did not get diagnosed while you were in service. Let's say that you got diagnosed outside of service. Well, now I call it building a bridge back. Now you need to build a bridge back with evidence that your migraines either manifested during service or are a result of your service in some way, right? Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. But you could work with your doctor and have them write you a Nexus letter, okay, for different versions of why you have migraines and how it's associated with your time in service. One example could be, and again, you'd have to talk with your doctor. Let's say that you were a fuels person, right? You're sniffing jet fuel all day. That, I'm guessing, maybe could cause migraines, right? So maybe you were around a bunch of loud noises over and over and over again. Maybe you were mortars or artillery. Maybe there's some sort of a correlation there, right? Maybe your MOS, right, had something to do with generating and starting your migraine episodes. Or maybe they just simply appeared. Well, now you need to talk with some buddies, right? Buddy statements. You could talk with your buddies. Have them write you letters. Now, a buddy statement could be somebody that you served with who can attest to their knowledge of you having migraines during your time in service. They manifested during your time in service. You could also write your own statement about your time in service and how you had migraines that manifested. You could also have a family member write a letter. These letters are all what they consider lay evidence. Again, everything is evidence. Your doctor nexus letter is medical evidence. So you have lay evidence and medical evidence. The medical evidence is essential. If your doctor can't or won't or doesn't understand how to put together a solid legal Nexus Letter for evidence purposes with your VA claim, and you can't bring them up to speed with that, utilize AME, American Medical Experts. They have board certified doctors that do all of this stuff, and what they focus on is medical evidence, and they will do Nexus Letters for VA claims all day long. Consultation's free. Go ahead and knock that out, because the Nexus is required for your condition to be service connected. The only kind of carve out on that is presumptives. Presumptives conditions, the VA just presumes that that's due to your time in service, so you don't really need a Nexus. But everything else, you absolutely need to satisfy that Nexus requirement. Utilize AME. Their link will be in the description and in the comments. So another piece here is the next stage, right? This, what we just discussed, will get you service connected. How do you get the appropriate rating? Let's again use migraines, right? So migraines could be rated 10, 30, 50%. Where do you fall on that rating schedule? You can utilize the DBQ, Disability Questionnaire. You can pull it offline from the VA's website for neurological. You can go into the migraine section and have your doctor complete that, cross-referencing information from the rating schedule and pulling that into the DBQ, again, with all the VA legalese to ensure that you get the appropriate rating. Now, again, if your doctor can't or won't or doesn't understand how to do it, you can also utilize AME, American Medical Experts, to complete the DBQ for you in an appropriate fashion for the appropriate rating. So they will complete that, give it back to you, and you can supply that with your evidence so you can ensure that you get the appropriate rating. Remember, Nexus Letter helps to satisfy the Nexus requirement. DBQ, Disability Questionnaire, helps you to get the appropriate rating. Very important. Those two aspects. Utilize AME, contact them. They have a free consultation. You can have that conversation with them. See if it makes sense for you. Their information will be in the description and in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.